Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking through some player props I like on Prizepicks for today's NBA slate on Wednesday, April the 23rd. We got 3 playoff games on Wednesday. We got some Game 2s, Game 2 between Boston and Orlando. We got Game 2 of the Cleveland-Miami series, and then we have Game 2 of Rockets and Warriors. So we got a 3-game slate, got some early player props I do like for tonight. Taking a first look at the board the night before, recording this video on Tuesday night. Got 2 early plays I like that we're going to talk about, we're going to break down in this video. Now, before we do get started, make sure that you guys hit that like button down below. If you do enjoy these Prizepicks videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And if you guys are new to the channel, if you are new to Prizepicks, if you don't have a Prizepicks account, be sure to go sign up. Use that promo code NOAH when you sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code and place your first $5 lineup. You're going to get $50 in promo funds instantly added to your account. So this is an easy way to build up your bankroll on Prizepicks. Use those promo funds to hopefully win some money, build up that bankroll. And again, you get access to this promo when you sign up with code NOAH. Now, I do also want to shout out Sleeper because we do have a partnership with Sleeper as well. You guys can go sign up for Sleeper. Download their app, use promo code NOAH, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. So you put in, $10, they'll give you an additional $10. You put in 25, they'll give you an additional 25. Put in 50, they'll give you an additional 50. You put in 100, they'll give you an additional 100. So whatever you deposit up to $100, Sleeper will match that 100%. So if you guys do want to try out Sleeper, I definitely recommend giving them a try, especially if you are a lower stakes player. So like if you are someone that doesn't really wager a lot of money, if you only play like $5, $10 a day, definitely recommend giving Sleeper a try because they have a lot of discounts. They do a lot of promotions, and typically those promotions have, I think, $10 limits on them. So you can use those discounts. You can basically be playing those discounts like every single day on Sleeper. So if you guys do want to try out Sleeper, again, download their app, use that promo code NOAH when you do sign up. But we're going to talk about some plays, guys, that I do like for Wednesday. Now, I do want to recap our plays from Tuesday before we go over today's plays. So went 2-0 on our 2 picks Tuesday. Hopefully you guys did tail. Took Bobby Portis over 11.5 points, sweat-free. Portis had a huge game, big first half. I think he went over his points prop in the first half. And then we took Luka over 46.5 PRA, which was relatively sweat-free as well. Luka hit, I think, early in the fourth quarter, like right at the start of the fourth quarter. So, good day on Tuesday. Good day on Tuesday, cashing both of our plays we gave out. Let's see if we can get another win here on these 2 plays for Wednesday. So both the props I do like for Wednesday are going to be fantasy scores. So, Prizepicks already has fantasy scores up the night before. Typically they don't, but we're starting to see now with the playoffs, they get lines up sooner than they normally do. And fantasy score props are ones that I do like to take a lot. I've said this countless times. And we will talk about some props that I like on these specific plays that aren't fantasy score, because I know there are some people who watch these videos that maybe don't have Prizepicks, don't have DFS apps, can't do fantasy score props. So I will give you some alternatives for those that can't take fantasy score. But the first prop that I do like is Jaylen Brown more than 36 fantasy score. So Jaylen Brown should be looking at a pretty big role here in this game on Wednesday night because the Celtics are going to be without Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum got injured in their game 1, and he's listed as doubtful for today. So Jason Tatum, it looks like, is not expected to play. And with Jason Tatum off the floor this season, Jaylen Brown has been a really big beneficiary. So if you look at Jaylen Brown this year, he has averaged 1.11 fantasy points per minute. But when you take Jason Tatum off the floor, that number spikes up to 1.26 fantasy points per minute. So, his fantasy points per minute go up a lot with Tatum off the floor. And then if you look at his usage rate, Jaylen Brown this season, 28.9% usage rate. If you look at the minutes that he's played without Jason Tatum, and if you look at his usage in the minutes that he's played without, with Tatum off the floor, his usage rate does go up to 32.9%, which is the highest on the team. So Jaylen Brown leads the team in usage with Tatum off the floor. He has seen a big spike in his fantasy points per minute with Tatum off the floor. Now, if you do look at game 1 of this series, Brown did go under this fantasy score line, only had 31.2 fantasy score, but there's a couple of takeaways. So first off, Jaylen Brown only played 30 minutes in game 1. And I think the reason he only played 30 minutes was just because Orlando never really had a chance to come back and win this game. Going into the fourth quarter, the Celtics were up like 13 or 14 points, And basically, it was like a 15 to 20 point game pretty much the entire fourth quarter. Like, Orlando never really ever made a comeback. Boston basically controlled the entire fourth quarter. So there was really no need for them to push Jaylen Brown in the fourth quarter or bring him back in the game. They just, they decided not to do that. Now, we have seen, since he returned from injury, so Jaylen Brown did get injured March 15th. He was out for about 2 weeks, did return, and then since he's returned from injury, basically in the middle of March, his minutes have been somewhat limited. 26, 28, 30, 29, 28, 21, 22, and then 30 minutes last game. However, if you do look at a lot of those games were blowouts, so it's hard to really look too much into that. Obviously, last game, Jaylen Brown didn't get any minutes in the fourth quarter, but coming into the playoffs, I'm assuming Jaylen Brown's fully healthy, and I'm assuming that he can play 35, 36 minutes if he has to. And without Jason Tatum, they're obviously going to need Jaylen Brown to take on a bigger role. And Brown's historically been a big beneficiary with Tatum off the floor. You can actually look at games this season that Brown has played without Tatum. In those games, he's had 53.7, 32.8, 55.8, 39.6, 55.1, 37.1, and 23.9 fantasy score. So he is over this fantasy score line in 5 out of 7 games without Tatum this season. And if you look at the 2 games he went under, in the 2 games he went under, he only played 30 minutes and 22 minutes. So his minutes were a little bit down in those games. I'm expecting about 35 to 36 minutes here for Jaylen Brown. Maybe he could play more than that. Obviously, game 1 was kind of a blowout, but without Jason Tatum, I think that makes it a little bit more likely that the Magic can keep this game close. And in a competitive game, I think we do see Jaylen Brown play mid to upper 30s minutes. He's a guy that's very productive with Tatum off the floor. So I do like that as our first play. And if you're looking for an alternative to fantasy score, the prop that I do like instead of fantasy score would be Brown more than 21.5 points, just because he does get a big bump in usage. He's historically been able to score the basketball really well with Tatum off the floor. His volume has been really good as well in the games he's played without Tatum. Like, he's consistently had like 15 to 20 shot attempts. So I think that's a really good alternative if you're looking for something to play besides fantasy score on Jaylen Brown. But the next prop that I like, again, it's going to be another fantasy score prop. We're going to go to the Warriors and Rockets game. And in this game, I'm liking Draymond Green for more than 28 fantasy scores. So Draymond Green did go under this fantasy score line in the first game of this series, but prior to that, he had played really well. You could see he had gone over his line in 4 straight games. Minutes, though, were way up for Draymond Green, which is what I really like to see. And we've historically seen Draymond Green play big minutes in the playoffs. Sometimes during the regular season, they'll limit Draymond Green's minutes. Like, he doesn't go out there and play 36 minutes every night during the regular season just because they don't need him to. But in the postseason, you will see Draymond Green's minutes get upped. And last game, he did play 36 minutes. Was not very productive in those minutes. Only had 4 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, 2 turnovers. So, obviously, in terms of per minute production, not great. I think he averaged like 0.6 I think it was like 0.67 fantasy points per minute in that game. But Draymond Green has historically been a player that averages around 1 fantasy point per minute. I think this season he's averaging 1.01 or 1.02 fantasy points per minute. And if you look at the minutes he's played alongside Jimmy Butler, you would think maybe Jimmy Butler, coming to the team maybe has hurt Draymond Green's production. But if you actually look this season, like we said, Draymond's averaging 1.02 fantasy points per minute. If you look at the minutes that he has played alongside Jimmy Butler, his fantasy points per minute don't really change at all. If anything, I think they stay the same, 1.02 fantasy points per minute. So the addition of Jimmy Butler has really had no negative impact on Draymond Green's production. He has still averaged the same fantasy points per minute versus, for the season and when playing alongside Jimmy Butler. So this is a guy that we can typically project to average close to a fantasy point per minute. Last game, he averaged well below that, like 0.67 fantasy points per minute. Just can't expect him to be that unproductive in 36 minutes. Typically, when Draymond gets over 30 minutes, you can bet on him going over 28 fantasy score. This season, he's played at least 32 minutes in 21 games, and he's over this fantasy score line in 17 out of those 21 games. Again, Draymond's just a guy that does a little bit of everything when he's on the floor, which obviously for fantasy score, that really adds up when you can have guys that can do a little bit of scoring, a little bit of rebounding, assisting, and can get steals and blocks. Again, that adds up for fantasy score. You get 3 points for blocks and steals. We saw Draymond last game What do you have? 3 steals and a block? Yeah, 3 steals and a block. Like, he gets those steals and blocks, which add up a lot for fantasy. But I think this line's just too low on Draymond. 28 fantasy score for a guy who probably plays 35 to 36 minutes, barring foul trouble. Obviously, foul trouble may be a concern for Draymond, but he avoided fouls last game, got 36 minutes, played a ton of minutes, and they're playing games too. Like, he played 38 minutes against the Clippers. He only played 31 minutes against Memphis, but he was in foul trouble in that game against Memphis. So it seems like in these big-time games, playoffs, play-in, they really want to up the minutes on Draymond Green. And I think that continues pretty much the rest of the postseason. As long as he avoids foul trouble, I think we're going to see Draymond play like 35, 36 minutes on a nightly basis. And I would bet on him, again, going over 28 fantasy score when he plays that many minutes. Now, if we're looking for an alternative to fantasy score, there's not as many alternative props that I like compared to like the Jaylen Brown thing, because Draymond is a guy that can get a lot of steals and blocks, and for fantasy score, obviously those are very important. And Draymond Green is a guy that can get a lot of steals and blocks. But I think if you're looking for a prop besides fantasy score, for those that maybe can't take fantasy score, I think taking Draymond for more than 20 PRA or maybe 20 and a half, depending on where you're at, I think that's fine. Again, I don't like that play as much because, like, as you can see, Draymond's only gone over this PRA line in 2 of his last 5 games. He pushed 1 game. However, for fantasy score, like, he went over all 4 of these games for fantasy, but not PRA. So, like, that's why I like the fantasy score line the most on Draymond. But I think taking more than 20 PRA is a fine alternative if you can't take fantasy score. I think another alternative that I would look at would be his rebounds plus assists, because Draymond is a guy that can rebound the ball really well. They've been playing him at center, so he's been getting, his rebounding numbers typically do better when he plays his minutes at center. And then assist-wise, Draymond's going to be out there. He can rack up assists. I know his assist numbers have gone down a little bit playing alongside Jimmy Butler, but he's still typically a guy you can bet on getting like 4 or 5 assists, at the least. I don't see a rebounds plus assist line on Draymond right now on Prizepicks. All they have is his Demon and Goblins for rebounds plus assists. But if that line's at like 12.5 or 13.5, which I think that's probably where it's at, like, I think you could look at that at 2. But that's what I'm liking, guys. That's our 2 plays for Wednesday. We're going to take Jaylen Brown for more than 36 fantasy score and Draymond Green for more than 28 fantasy score. So if you guys are tailing me, let's see if we can go 2-0 here and hit both of our plays again today on Wednesday. Appreciate your guys' support, though. As always, make sure that you hit that like button. Before you guys do get out of here, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And if you guys don't have an account on Prizepicks, use that promo code NOAH when you do sign up. And again, when you play $5, you're going to get $50 worth of promo funds instantly added to your account. But good luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, let's make some money tonight, and I'll see you guys in the next video.